And welcome to the 2026 Shady Football Preview Show here on Video Productions. I'm Maris Lowry with Eric Thomas, Butch Mounts on camera, and the heavy hitter Mr. Nick Eskins producing and directing. And, of course, we have the head football coach of the Shady Spring Tigers, Chris Vicars. We will dive into three segments of the program. The first segment will be the off-season. The second segment will be the current roster, and then we'll wrap it up with the schedule. We'll take our first commercial break. When we come back, we'll dive into the show as you're watching the 2026 Shady Spring Football Preview Show here on Video Productions.
Hey, my name's Paige, and what makes the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich original to me is the crispiness of the breading and the tenderness of the filet. It's tasty, it's warm, it's total satisfaction.
Hi, this is Tanya, and what makes the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich original to me is that warm bun, the perfectly seasoned chicken, and that pickle. Woo! I love it. There's a taste of my childhood in every bite.
I never thought this would happen.
When disaster takes control of your life,
we got you.
Get it back with a single call to the team that shows up fast to make things right. Serve Pro, like it never even happened.
Direct Choice Pre-Owned Auto Sales is a proud supporter of all our area middle school and high school athletics. Direct Choice Pre-Owned Auto Sales keeps a huge selection of cars, trucks, and SUVs with some of the best prices in southern West Virginia. We also have several lenders for your financing needs. Direct Choice Pre-Owned Auto Sales and your student athletes, a winning combination.
Teriyaki Madness is real food made to order with fresh, high-quality ingredients. That's why Little General Stores has partnered with them to bring delicious, fresh favorites to your neighborhood. Visit TeriyakiMadness.com.
Fresh Asian Grill.
When you're in need of a plumber, you want someone that's going to treat you like family. Modley's Plumbing and Heating, a family-owned business since 1987, wants you to know our customers and employees are as important as family. Built by family to families, quality work is our hallmark at Modley's Plumbing and Heating. So the next time you're in need of a plumber, give Modley's Plumbing and Heating a call at 304-253-HELP. Help to Modley's means handling every little problem.
And we welcome you back into the Shady Spring Football Preview Show. This first segment, we'll talk about the offseason, and this first segment is brought to you by Forgill Law Office, handling family matters with care for decades. Also brought to you by Compliance, LLC, specializing in payroll and HR service. Also by New River Community and Technical College. Stay close to home and go far with a degree. And by the great taste of Pepsi. Try a regular, diet, or Pepsi Zero. You'll love the clean, crisp taste of a Pepsi. Well, Coach, it's good to be here with football season right around the corner, ready to start your fall camp. Before you dive into fall camp, what you've been up to since you were named the head coach in the offseason?
Yes, sir. Well, number one, thanks for you guys coming out and having me here on Video Productions. You guys do a great job, so we're very fortunate to have you guys in our community. But, you know, we started in January, second week in January with lifting in the weight room. I hadn't even been officially named the coach yet, but as the group of assistants, we started our off-season program. I was named the head coach in early February. And we continued lifting through February through March. Once April rolled around, we got a few flex days at the end of April. Mostly May, we had 4 or 5 flex days in May as well, along with our lifting program. And then June, July, those are the heavy times as far as our off-season program. We finished up our maxing in June, and then we started having a few flex days every week. We went down to Oak Hill, or I guess from here up to Oak Hill, for a 7-on-7 event. We played 4 or 5 games there, and I thought our kids performed fairly well there. We came back in July with 3 straight weeks where we had flex days and then a 7-on-7 in Princeton on Wednesdays. The first one actually got canceled because of the weather, but we ended up playing 2 on Wednesday nights down in Princeton, and again, really good competition there, and our kids performed really well, and good to get that kind of competition in the summer. So I think overall we had a pretty good off season. Our kids got stronger. Everybody increased their maxes, in their core lifts, and the ones that we could get there worked really hard. We have a lot of kids that are multiple sports. We have a
Right.
lot of our players that are on the track team in the spring, and they'll come and get their core part of their lift and go up and do their track workout. And then we have a few players that are on the baseball team. Of course, their season was extended with their run, and so we always want to see success for all of our sports. And so with that, sometimes you have little hiccups in your continuity, but our kids have done a good job, and we're really anxious to get started next week.
Okay, so during your flex
Yeah.
days, what did you mostly focus on either building up on or improving on in your flex days?
So great question. We had quite a few. We had a few kids back that were in going to be in similar positions that they were last year. So they kind of understand what we're trying to do. And our offense is we're going to be a little bit different than what we have the last few years, and that's not a lot different, but a little different. And so we've been teaching them what we want to do, the terminology that we want to use. Mostly offense, but we have worked on defense as well. Now, we focus on the 7-on-7 portion because that's what we're competing in. Not to say that we don't work on stuff for linemen and that kind of stuff, but it's hard when you can't have contact and meaningful contact, and you can't do the things that you would normally do. It's hard to get.
Really teach a lot of technique.
Yeah, so we go over stuff. We go over types of blocks and plays that we do for those offensive linemen, that kind of stuff. But that'll change starting next week, obviously. But yeah, we the big thing is like defensively, we put in our pass coverage defense, and a lot of teams will run their stuff, but then they'll change some things for 7-on-7s and do some things, run some different defenses, and we didn't do that. We run the same defense that we're going to run, on Friday night, for the most part, So our kids, it's really beneficial to them to learn that, to learn coverages, to learn how to communicate with each other when you're going up against, say, Princeton, who's a defending state champion, and the things they can do with guys. And so it's really valuable in the communication part and the competition part. That's really why I like the 7-on-7s.
Well, Coach, the fact that you have been on the staff in the past and the kids that are returning know you, and as you mentioned, there's a lot of familiarity there, a lot of the same things. But anytime you make a change, especially at the top, there's going to be changes. So how have they been able to adapt to some of the subtle changes that you've been able to put in?
I think they've done a good job adapting, and like we do a lot of the similar things. I would say 60% is similar to what they've seen. Now it might be a little bit different terminology. So picking up on the way that we want to term things or the way that we want to call things is what has been the biggest thing that we've worked on during the summer. And we want them to understand that we want to try to be really efficient with what we're doing.
Right.
If we're going to practice 2 hours or 2 hours and 15 minutes, we want to get as many reps as we can in that time. And so kind of instilling that in the off season, if you can, is really good. And so, they've done a really good job of trying to understand what we want to do and the pace at which we want to do it. I don't do a lot of yelling, okay? I mean, I coach. I don't do a lot of yelling, but I'm a big believer in, boom, boom, boom. We're going to keep rolling, and as
pace.
Yeah,
pace.
Not necessarily like in the game fast pace, but in practice, if we're got 2 minutes of this group and we're going to the next, boom.
Hustle.
There's no standing around.
Hustle.
Yeah,
you got to hustle.
We don't want to stand around.
That's right.
So, yeah.
And so with your returning personnel, I know we'll get into that later.
Sure.
So has that helped your transition? It's easier for the kids.
Yeah.
So you as a coach, has it helped your transition?
Oh, absolutely, because you knowing the kids and knowing what they can do and what they bring, to the team helps you, especially when you're trying to coach some of the new kids and bring the new kids in, whether they're kids that haven't played before or whether they're 8th graders coming up, from the middle school, using those kids to say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is what the coaches want, and so. And you can also I can also look at, Miles, my quarterback, and say, hey, listen, I need you to talk to him, because sometimes it comes, when it comes from a fellow player, it means something different. Yeah, exactly. It's different, and kids respond to different ways sometimes. And, so I think that's valuable as well. And our we'll talk about the coaches later, but one of our new assistant coaches has had some head coaching experience, and he's done a really good job of talking to kids off to the side and that kind of stuff too. So.
One of the things too, Coach, and all the coaches that Eric and I have an opportunity to sit down and interview with, 7-on-7, and we hear that all the time. And I know that's big, and that's part of what you do in your off season. But obviously that helps the quarterback, that helps your receivers. But then, what do you have to do for your linemen? Because 7-on-7 really doesn't really help your linemen because they got nobody to block. They can block the air. So, how do you get your linemen to the 7-on-7 to the passing that you do when you go to these 7-on-7s?
Yeah, it depends on, sometimes the ones you go to will have lineman events with them. Sometimes those are just weightlifting type events or might be, like a sled push or some different types of, conditioning type events as well. And so, but it's still not really, blocking, tackling, that kind of stuff. And
technique, those kind of things.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so they kind of miss out on that. And without being able to wear full pads, there's so much you can do anyway. But so the bigger thing is if you can teach them, kind of what the plays are called, what the formations are called, all that kind of stuff. If you can get that teaching done in your flex days, when real practice rolls around next week, it just makes things easier and quicker. And I know some teams are still doing but we, in the last 5 years, I haven't seen any need for. We used to do 2 days when I played, and all the time you'd be out there for 5-6 hours, or leave and come back, and you really don't have to do that anymore because we've been practicing for 6 weeks with flex days,
and that's been the consensus.
That's right. That's Eric and I. That's why we're laughing because that's been the consensus. Because here's the thing, and I've asked the other two coaches we've already done interviews with. Asked you if you went out and told your group the first day of practice, this week we're going to do 2 days. Most of them would look, what's the heck's he talking about? What is Coach talking about? Right? They wouldn't even know. Some of their parents may not even know. Right?
You might be right about that. Yeah, the game has changed quite a bit over the years, and so and that's okay. I mean, I think a lot of it's for the better. Some of it, maybe not. But I mean, it is what it is now, and we adapt to what we have to, and the kids are good about adapting to. So we'll see how it rolls.
Yep.
Okay, so when we talk about the 7-on-7, and so do you actually have your linemen? If they don't, do you still incorporate them even if they don't have the lineman competition? Maybe do they get a chance to come and see what formations look like? Yeah,
absolutely. So when we do a flex day, our linemen come regardless. They're there, and our line coach will a lot of times will take them down to a different part of the field, and they work on their steps, their plays, their pass protection. They do some different stuff technique wise without contact, without pads on, and then. So when we go to the actual 7-on-7 competition or event, if they don't have a lineman part, we usually only bring our centers, and they'll snap the ball or whatever. Now, I do offer it up if they want to come and watch, they certainly can. That's kind of up to them. But I hate to say, come and sit for 3 hours.
Right.
But we've had a couple do that honestly, and pay attention and kind of watch what's going on. So that's always a good thing, and it's part of a team building as well. But yeah, I mean, for example, the Liberty had a 7-on-7. We didn't get to go to this year. We went last year, but they had a competition, and our linemen won the lineman portion of that competition. So that's always a good thing that is a way for them to go and compete as well. So we just didn't. Just happened to the 2 we went to this year just didn't have to have those, but that's okay.
Yeah. The flex days that West Virginia has added and these 7-on-7s you're talking about is probably the greatest thing that's happened, because when you get ready to open up fall camp, you've got probably a lot of your offense, defense, special teams intact, and you can really hit the ground running because you've already put all the work in.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think it's a good thing. I think when we first went from the 3-week period to the, I think it was maybe 5 or 6 flex days, and then when we went to the 32, and people were like, oh, that's too many. But what you found now is that they get spread out over the year. Kind of, for us, it's outdoor sport. They get spread out, from April to July, and so you're not really trying to overwhelm the kids with it. I know some programs probably do them 4 or 5 days a week, depending on what they have. If you get, and I think it's really good if you have a bunch of kids. It's a good way to evaluate your kids too before you get in practice. If you're, in a program that has 60, 70 kids out, some of the bigger schools, it's a good way to see those kids and evaluate them. And we use it for evaluation purposes too. Not, we certainly don't cut anybody or anything like that. But we can see, who can run, who can move, who can bend, those kind of things. And then that helps you decide where kids might be able to play for you. But it does make things a lot easier when you get into practice.
Yeah.
We're going to run – I've run 3-hour practices before. We're going to run 2.5-hour practices this year. Been here for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks and know what's going on. So now you just have to bring everybody in the fold, refine things. There's still a lot of teaching that goes on, but it does make things easier and quicker when you first get into it.
Well, also when you have kids that play multiple sports, to have that many flex days in case they have to play, say, for instance, maybe a summer baseball game or basketball game. You don't like them to miss a flex day, but they can, and they don't miss out a whole lot.
Exactly, absolutely, and we want them to be involved, and then. Our kids, kids that play basketball, very few kids are not doing something all summer long, and so that's a good thing. It's good for them to stay involved. If it's not football, if it's basketball, baseball, whatever, we want them involved. We want them to be a positive part of our school community, and so it's great to have them involved in some type of aspect of our school.
All right, that'll wrap up the first segment. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll dive into the roster of the coaching staff, and we'll do it on the other side of the break here on Video Productions.
You have a goal. You know what you want. Start with us, New River Community and Technical College, your community college. Take classes online or in a classroom in Beaver, Lewisburg, Summersville, or Princeton, or step outside the classroom in one of our technical or health programs. Find flexible and affordable options to help you reach your goal. It's closer than you think when you start with us, New River Community and Technical College. Apply today.
Teriyaki Madness is real food made to order with fresh, high-quality ingredients. That's why Little General Stores has partnered with them to bring delicious, fresh favorites to your neighborhood. Visit TeriyakiMadness.com.
Fresh Asian Grill.
Here we grow again. Pioneer Community Bank is proud to offer a network of banks right here in our communities. By offering you more locations, Pioneer continues to meet all your banking needs where you are. Please stop by our new Harper Road location. We are truly investing in Southern West Virginia. Pioneer Community Bank. Friendly service, great products. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Take care of this by the end of the day.
Sure, I'll take care of that. Done.
It's that easy with compliance. Compliance. We've got your back office.
This fall, let the beauty of the season in without the chill. At Window World of Beckley, we bring comfort, style, and savings to your home. Our windows and doors are built to handle West Virginia's wild and wonderful weather, keeping the warmth in and the energy bills low. With energy-efficient windows, expert installations, and affordable financing options, it's time to upgrade. It's never been easier to fall in love with your home again. Call 1-800-WINDOW-WORLD today.
And we welcome you back into the 2026 Shady Football Preview Show. I'm Maris Lowry with Eric Thomas. Butch Mounts on camera, the heavy hitter, Mr. Nick Eskins producing and directing. And we're here with head football coach Chris Vicars, and we're going to talk about personnel and coaching staff. And this segment is brought to you by Pioneer Community Bank, with new locations coming soon, by Serve Pro, just like it never happened. Steve Kelly is your local operator, by Chick-fil-A in the Beckley Galleria and Harper Road, Eat More Chicken, and by WVU Tech. Find your passion, WVUTech.edu. Well, Coach, I know you have been a coach before. You've been a coach at Summers County, coach at Independence, actually Independence, then Summers County. You've been an assistant. Now you are the head man here at Shady. Talk a little bit about your coaching staff, of who's back with you and who's not back with you from last year.
Of course, Coach Vince Colcerto, resigned after 21 years coaching, and Phil, his brother, Phil Colcerto, resigned as well. And so those guys have been such a staple for the Shady community and the Shady football program. And so those are certainly big shoes to fill. Corey Handy was on our staff as well as assistant coach, and he is back with us, and he will be coaching the offensive defensive line. And we had another assistant coach that was with us that moved on. He'll be at Woodrow this year. He got his teaching jobs at Woodrow now. He got transferred, and so he'll be there. And then as far as new coaches, we have Dwayne Reichard, who is coming on the staff. He actually also got a teaching position here at the high school. He's a former head coach at Meadowbridge. He was a head coach there for, I think, 10 years or more. So he brings a lot of experience. And then we should have R.J. Elam is going to help us out as well. He's new to football, but he has some wrestling experience for a coach as far as that goes. And so that's right now. I'd like to try to get one more if we could. We still have a position available, so if any of you guys see that and you want to get in the coaching, holler at me and we'll talk. But yeah, it's so right now we have 4 that are on staff that we'll coach with, and we'll make it work. So.
All right, let's talk about some of the personnel that when fans tune into video production this fall and watching Shady, who are some of the names that they may hear?
Okay, well, we'll start on the offense side of the ball,
right.
And I'll start at quarterback. That should be Miles Clark. Miles is a senior. He's been the backup for the last 3 years. As a freshman, he was a backup along with Cal and to Mr. Green, who was a good quarterback here, and then of course Cal Colasotto was a quarterback for the next 2 years, and Miles has been the backup for him, and he came in and did very well in a few games when Cal was hurt,
right?
And so I can remember very vividly. He came in. We played at James Monroe, and he started that game as a sophomore, I think, and we won the game against a good James Monroe team, and he played well. So we expect a lot of big things out of him. He's been a good leader. He started quite a few games last year at receiver and defensive back, so he definitely has experience. He's a competitor. He's been on the basketball team here for the last 3 years. He's on the track team as well. So, again, we expect big things out of him. In the backfield, Blake Snodgrass will be a senior. He started for us some last year in our 2-back set. Had an unfortunate injury, game 4 or 5, I think. Kind of broke his collarbone and was out for the rest of the year. So he's worked really hard both in track and in the weight room, and has gotten stronger. He's gotten bigger. He's a fast kid. He's been to quite a few camps over the summer. And so we expect big things out of him, and he'll we'll come back to defense. He'll be on defense too. But also in the backfield at times, Damian Simmons, another senior. He played some offensive line for us last year because we had to have him in certain situations, but his favorite position is linebacker. Again, we'll talk about him on defense.
Right.
At the receiver, a couple of outside receivers, we'll probably have Gage Spears. He'll be a junior. Expect big things out of him. He's had a lot of success at our 7-on-7s. He's 6'3", 180, 175, 180. Can run well. Really good hands. So we expect good things out of him on the outside. Excuse me. We'll have in our inside kind of slot receivers, we'll have some young kids. Jace Bailey, who started a lot at safety for us last year and had a heck of a year.
Made a lot of big plays for you.
Yeah, he did. He'll play there. Some at that inside receiver, maybe some in the backfield, some as well, depending on what we do, formation-wise. We'll have some other young kids at that position as well. Kid that'll be a sophomore, Avery McGuire, should be in there some. Carter Petrie will also be at that inside receiver some. He's a senior. He played some defense for us last year. Again, he was a kid that we repped at offensive line last year just because we didn't have a lot of depth. But he'll play like a slot for us some this year, and he's done well at our 7-on-7 as well. Been very competitive. He's a fiery kind of kid.
Yeah.
So, up on the biggest question that we'll have is our offensive and defensive line. We won't return any offensive linemen, no starters from the offensive line or the defensive line, and so that's the big thing. Those kids, most of them will be young. We will have our center will be Braden Trent. He's a senior, and he was a backup a lot and played at times last year due to injuries and that kind of stuff. So he'll be our anchor there at the center position. But again, he was one. We only moved him to the offensive line last year, so that'll be the big question mark. We'll have probably Colby Lilly. He'll be a sophomore. He was very promising last year. Played really well in the JV games, and he'll have to start for us. And then we'll have some freshmen that may start in there for us as well. So that'll be the biggest question mark. I don't know if you have other questions you want me to go to defense. Or?
Well, we'll get into that. I think Eric may have a question for you.
Well, he kind of touched on my question. I guess that will be your biggest challenge then,
yes.
is in the trenches.
Yes.
Because I knew you graduated a few, had a couple, maybe transfer and all that, and that's where it starts up front. But
Absolutely.
It seems like you already, have in mind what you're going to do, because that's where it starts.
Yeah, we have ideas of who can play where for us, but now, of any position on the football field, offensive line, until we get pads on, we won't know for sure. If we haven't seen them before, if they haven't played for us last year,
right.
We got to see how they react with competition, with physicality, and with that kind of stuff as well. So, we've seen some things and kids that look good in certain situations, but like I said, once they get guys lined up across from them, and once they're, been in practice for an hour and a half and they're tired, we got to see what they can do at that point in time too. So.
And to build, your offensive defensive line, what are the numbers that you're looking at? I know before we started recording this, you were talking about obviously your numbers maybe not be right now where you want them to be, but hopefully you'll get there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to be around 35-ish, total for the, team. I think we're only looking at it right now about 10 or so. On the offensive defensive line guys, and so that's we'd like to have more, but we're going to take what we have.
Sure.
We're going to develop them and make them better, and they'll get us through. I mean, I'm very confident that that they'll be ready come August 28th, their first game, and the great thing about this sport and other sports too, but this sport in general is you have a certain number of days, and when that game gets here on August 28th, there's no backing away from it. I mean, it's here, and you got to be ready. And so there's nowhere to hide. And so kids have a way of kind of rising to that challenge, and that's what we're going to expect out of them. And we'll talk to them, and they just got to be tough, and they will be. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing to overcome, especially the one thing I think you have going for you is that you are on the staff, and that way you know how to evaluate. And I think you gain something with Miles Clark. I think you gain, just to not to talk about Lucerto.
No, not at all, but I
think a little more athleticism.
Yeah.
Because I think how we did the game at Greenbrier East.
Yes.
I think he got banged up a little bit, and Clark came in and was able to do a little more, be a little more elusive on the run and stuff. So you probably can, you probably can get better away with that a little more with an offensive line not as deep.
That does help your offensive line, when you have a quarterback that can maybe escape some pressure, or if you can force the defense to defend all 11 players on the field, both in the run and the pass, then that makes you more unpredictable, but it takes some pressure off sometimes because you can do some different things. And we will run the ball with Miles as well. Design runs probably. It depends on the game. The game plan 6 to 10 times a game. We'll probably have a designed run. Not to mean that he might not have to run on a pass play here or there or whatever. But he does have that ability, and he doesn't mind the run. I mean, he doesn't want to run. We're not going to run 25 times a game. He's not a running back playing quarterback. But he's a strong kid, and he can be physical, and he's real competitive, and so he'll be fine at that aspect. And we'll definitely use his athletic ability. But you're very correct in that it can help a young offensive line out of some pressure at times. So.
And after everything you've done now, we talked about off season in our first segment, and now the current personnel. I'm sure when the fall camp's ready to open, I'm sure your kids are chomping at the bit to really get the season started.
Absolutely, I can tell you that in the last, so we had a couple of flex days scheduled for this week. A couple of different things come up. We ended up calling those off. And I said, all right, just rest up this week. We'll get back at it. I've gotten probably no less than 3 or 4 texts on different days. Hey, can you can you come up and turn the lights on? We want to go out there and throw at 8:30. I'm like, I can't be there tonight. I live in Hinton, you know. Right. So, but they're really. I say that to let you know that they want to be out here. They want to be competing. They want to practice. They want to play. They're excited. And so, yeah, I think they're going to be ready to roll. We get here Monday.
Well, you said you lived in Hinton. You might have to inform your wife now that you're the coach. You got to start living here in the field house and here on campus. I'm not sure she'll go for that, but that might be what you have to do. Right?
You got that right. She's a principal, so she stays here quite a bit anyway too. But, it's and you know, she knows, and we have 3 kids that are going to be in college next year. Her third one's going off, and so she's like, I'm going to have to stay and just kind of keep myself occupied because there won't be anybody home, you know.
Got that empty nest.
Yeah. She's
there's your 4th coach.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
she's already the boss, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, she said we're fortunate enough to finally get a trainer, but we were scrounging for a trainer there for a long time. She said, I'm just going to get certified. I'll just stay and be your trainer.
There you go.
I said, well, we'll if we have to, we'll do that. I said, you got to be the principal too. So.
There you go. Yeah. All right, well, to wrap up this segment, we'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll get into our final segment. We'll dive in to the 2026 Shady football schedule. We'll do it on the other side of the break here on Video Productions.
Before you hit the Hatfield-McCoy trails, fuel up the way West Virginians do at Little General Stores. We're proud to be part of your ride. Rooted in West Virginia and built for the back roads. Little General Stores. Fuel your adventure the West Virginia way.
Some moments change everything. In an instant, your world grows bigger, and suddenly, it's real. There are questions, there are plans, there are quiet worries you don't always say out loud, and there are providers who walk with you through all of it, from the first heartbeat to the first time you hold them in your arms. At Access Health Women's Health, you don't have to leave your community to receive exceptional care. Access Health, right here at home.
My name's Keith Sigmund. I'm the general manager here at Buchanan Mine. I find in Bluefield State graduates a characteristic that is uncommon in most today, and that characteristic is their work ethic.
Not afraid to spend as many hours as they need to spend here. They have a great work ethic. Why we search for Bluefield State graduates is because they don't shy away from the challenge.
And we welcome you back into the 2026 Shady Football Preview Show here on Video Productions. Maris Lowry with Eric Thomas, Butch Mounts on camera, heavy hitter Mr. Nick Eskins producing and directing, and we have the head coach, Chris Vicars, for Shady. And this segment is brought to you by Direct Choice Pre-Owned Auto Sales. Dial them up at 256-1000. Go see Rick Lewis, Jimmy Davidson, or Richie Horton. They'll take great care of you there. Also brought to you by Exit Elevation Realty, 256-0101. Luke Richmond is the broker at Exit and Exit Realty. They are the official realty company of Video Productions. Also being brought to you by City National Bank, Main Street in Beckley. Go see the branch manager, Casey Maynor, and go see Mary Denny. Mary Denny, the money doctor. So MD doesn't stand for Mary Denny. It stands for the money doctor. She'll take great care of you. And the fine folks at Pasquale's. They've been serving great Italian cuisine for over 55 years. All right, Coach, we'll dive into the schedule. First of all, you start with a couple of scrimmages, as most teams around the state of West Virginia do. Yep. August the 14th at home against Sissonville. August 21st against Chapmanville. And Chapmanville they made a deep playoff run last year. So right off the bat, you're going to kind of be able to gauge where you're at.
Yeah, and that's what we want. We want. You in one of those two scrimmages, you usually want to play somebody that's going to give you a really good challenge, or maybe be even better than you. You want your kids kind of to gauge where they're at, and you want them to understand that, the following week or the following 2 weeks, depending on when you talk about your scrimmage, it's for real, and you got to be ready to go. And so when you scrimmage good people, you got to be ready to go in the scrimmages too. And so we're excited. Sissonville. They certainly have been improving in the last few years, and we went up to played a JV game up there with them last year, and so we talked about having them come down for a scrimmage, and then we'll go back up there next year. But and then of course Chapmanville, they were really good last year. Several really good players, and they bring some back. I think they got a really good quarterback and some other kids that are just really phenomenal. And so that'll be a good challenge for us and should get us ready to play, that first game.
Well, to open that first game, Eric and I will be here as it'll be St. Albans against Shady. And, of course, for you, it'll be your coaching debut as the new head coach. But St. Albans also getting a new head coach. And Shady got the best of St. Albans last year down there, beat them pretty good. If my memory serves correct, like 40-0, I believe, right?
40-0. Yes.
So thanks for the assist. Eric is putting up a 4-0. And, Coach, we've worked together so long. I knew and he could read where my mind was going, and he gave me the signal. But you got a nice win, and that's where you're starting. Your tenure as the new head coach at Shady.
Yeah, I mean we're excited. We went down there last year and had a good experience. Obviously, we played well, but they treated us well. Their coaching staff was really accommodating to us, and neat atmosphere. It's the first time that I'd been there and coached at their place, and I enjoyed the whole game. Of course, it's when your kids play well and you have a good win, that makes things easier. And so we want to try to emulate that if we can this year. But opening up at home is always fun for your kids and your community. They like seeing that, and of course, having the 2 scrimmages at home as well. We're heavy at home to start with, but we're excited that we hope that we're ready to play, and we open up well. If we can open up and start the season 1-0, that gets us on the right track and gets us going. And so that's certainly would be the goal.
And to get you going to Lincoln County, and as Eric knows, because Eric and I have done a couple of ball games in Lincoln County, there's no good way to get there, is there? There's no good way to get there.
Right.
That is a trip.
So that's your second game of the season.
Yeah, and we wanted to pick up another AAA school, so we talked to them for a little while, and that's Lincoln County and Shady played, I think, 4 games in a row, I guess, back around the late 20-teens, 18, 19, somewhere in that range. And so they used to playing each other, and so we felt like it was a good game for both of us. It is a little bit of a trip, but it won't be that bad, and it'll be a good game, I think. Going down there, that's we'll be fine. Our kids. You go to Wyoming County. I've been on a bus to Mingo County, and you've been all over. And so we'll go up to. We'll go up later. Go up to Berkeley Springs, some different places. But we don't mind. We'll jump on the bus and go play.
As Eric and I know from former players, and as you know from being a coach, when you win, those trips don't seem as long on the way back, right?
You're right, absolutely. And if you don't win, they seem longer than
they do. They seem like, wait a minute, maybe the bus rider, maybe he's not going the same way on the way back as he did on the way there. If you don't win, then you come back home and you play Pikeview, and Pikeview, of course, just right down the road there in Mercer County, a real easy trip for them to come up here to Shady.
Yeah, and we've played Pikeview for quite a few years, and of course they made the playoffs last year. They had a good team, and 2 years ago when we were playing them, I told they had a new coach, and I told our coaching staff, I said, he will have them in the playoffs within the next 2 or 3 years. I coached against him in Virginia. He was a coach in Virginia in a couple different places, and so I know him pretty decently, and he has high expectations. He's really gets kids in the weight room and gets them going, and so you've seen a difference in them. So that'll be certainly be a challenge for us.
And Eric, I'm sure you remember we went to Athens and called a Shady Pikeview game a few years back.
Game 2 years ago.
Yeah, we called that 2 years ago, but we also called a game, and I think it was right after COVID, because I think it was like a Tuesday night, and Shady had to win to make the postseason, and they did. So we've actually been to Athens twice. To call Shady games. Yeah. And then you go on the road taking on Oak Hill, stepping out of class a little bit, moving up in class to take on the Oak Hill Red Devils.
Yeah, and it's a good game for us. I've enjoyed getting to know Coach Marion a little bit the last little bit. He's a good guy and does a good job with his program, and it's good. It's okay to play up. It's you want to play as many games in your class or higher as you can, but you got to be strategic with your schedule as well. As far as that goes, but it's a good game for us. It's close by. We'll get a good crowd. They'll be tough. They were tough last year. They had some really good players last year. Had some huge linemen last year that were really good, and so we'll see what they have this year. I expect our kids to be excited to play them. We played them in the 7-on-7. That doesn't really translate to the season. I don't mean that, but it's good to go out there and compete against them, and they're for that game.
Well, your first 4 games we talked about your home away, and then you got the next 3 at home, and then the last 3 on the road.
Yeah.
So the next 3, and this is just me being part of the media, just looking on paper. I think this is really going to be the make or break of your season.
Yeah.
And Eric, I don't know if you had a chance to look at their schedule, if you thought the same thing, but you got West Side at home, Greenbrier East at home, and county rivalry Liberty at home.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are all, we went down to West Side and played last year and got a win there. But those kids are tough kids and they play hard, and so that's a big game for us if we can figure out a way to win that one. Because then you got Greenbrier East the following week, and we just last 2 years we have not played well against them for whatever reason. I mean, they're good. They have had a really good team the last year or two, and had some guys that could do some things, and we struggled with that a little bit last year and the year before. The year before we thought we could be very competitive with, and we just did not play as well as we should have. Last year they were better than us, so we renewed with them this year, and it's a good game for us. It's in class. They're right beside us for the most part, 35 minutes away, 40 minutes away. So that's definitely a good game for us, and we look forward to trying to get a win here that night. And then Liberty's always a big rival for us. It's in county. Our kids, they some of them go to ACT with Liberty kids, and they talk to each other. And we so anytime you can go against a little bit of a rival, that makes things a little easier, because your kids are already excited and fired up. They don't want to lose that game, and so we need to find a way to win that game for sure.
Well, Eric, you can recall you and I have done the Shady Greenbrier East each of the last 2 seasons.
Yes.
The game that Coach referred to 2 years ago here, and the last year you and I both have done that.
Yeah, and I think Coach was spot on. Quarterback play from Greenbrier East has been stellar the last 2 years, and I think they're going to have a different look this year, because their quarterback, he could beat you with his arm, and definitely if the play it was broken down, I mean, he would kill you.
Yep.
And so I'm interested to see how they shape up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see what they have. I mean, as the season goes on.
And Eric, you're definitely going to remember this, and Coach, you're going to remember this because you're on the sidelines. We did the Liberty game last year. We had a little bit of a ruckus in that game. A little bit of that.
You get a little tense in that game sometimes.
I
of course feel Colasurto and I. We grew up together. We've known each other our entire life, and I needle Phil about it. I said, "See, can't take him nowhere. He's the one that started to fight." No, but anyway. That's just the way, going back to the Trap Hill days when it was Trap Hill and Shady in the old days in the 70s, and since Liberty, that's just been a very intense rival. But Eric and I called it, and we had that skirmish that night with Shady and Liberty.
I mean,
football.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got 2 teams that are playing hard, and they both want to win, and it's a rival. Then sometimes things can get a little too heated, a little too quick. But our kids, they. Like I said, we'll see how the year goes, but they don't. I don't think we're going to back down from anybody. we may get beat, but they're not going to back down from anybody. Their mentality is just not. That's not in their nature. So we're excited to see how that holds up. That'll be a big game for us.
And then when you play Liberty, that'll be your final regular season home game, and then you got to finish the year on the road. You got to go to Winfield, that long trip to the Eastern Panhandle against Berkeley Springs, and then you finish up in Summersville against Nicholas County.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough way to end the season. Winfield will be very good. They were very good last year, very well coached. They were very fundamental in what they were doing. So that's a tough, that'll be a tough game, and you got to go play at their place. Then Berkeley Springs, that's a long trip. That's a long trip. We'll leave on Friday and get back on Saturday. But our kids will be up to challenge, and we need to go up there and find a way to get a win there for sure. Then to finish game 10, week 10 against Nicholas County, they're always that's a bit of a rivalry for us too. We've here at Shady played them every year for I don't know how long, but that our kids, that's an intense game. And if we can find a way to win that one to end the season, that would certainly be phenomenal. But they're usually very well coached and very tough, hard-nosed kids, and they run the ball really well and they run the ball really hard. And so we got to be able to stop the run that night for sure.
Yeah. Scheme-wise, as we talk about the last game with Nicholas County, one thing I respect from that program, they run the same running plays, but out of multiple
formations.
Yeah. So and then they were multiple in that aspect. So that'll be where you know where you've gone against them. But they disguise it very well.
They do a really good job of doing what they do from a few different looks and doing it really well. So.
And, of course, Eric, you'll remember we had Nicholas County and Shady here the last time they played a couple years ago. Now, you can remember, it seemed like that was much earlier in the schedule. The game we did like 2 years ago. It was earlier in the season, maybe September. But I know they
moved
them,
I think it was.
Yeah, you moved them back to the end.
Yeah, they wanted they requested us to move when we renewed this year to move back to week 10 so they could pick up somebody else that week. So they were trying to get their schedule where they wanted it, and we were able to make that happen. We had Westside week 10, so we were able to move them up and just do a little flipping around a little bit.
So I got a question for you. Most coaches tell me that they don't like 10 straight games, and that's what you have. And maybe you didn't have a choice because I know when you became the coach, you may have inherited that. But in the future, would you like to have a bye week somewhere else other than at the end of the year?
I would, absolutely. Wouldn't like a bye week 1 or week 11. And I've been fortunate enough not to have that in the past, so it's good to have it somewhere in the middle of the season. You just kind of get a little bit of a breath, get the kids a little bit of extra rest if they need it, that kind of stuff. But if you make the playoffs and you get a little break in between the playoffs, you get a little time to rest and recover then. But 10 straight games, 10 straight weeks is tough.
That's a grind.
Most NFL teams don't do that. They usually get a bye before they play 10 in a row. But we're going to be fine. Our kids, like I said, will be tough and they'll step up to it.
In that Berkeley Springs away game, maybe you can talk to the boss and see if you can leave a little early, maybe on Thursday or something. If she'll let you go and maybe go up halfway on Thursday and then be able to go in on Friday and make Friday not such a long day.
Right. I'm sure we'll come up with a plan as it gets a little closer, and we'll definitely leave in time to take care of the kids on the way, and so we'll figure it out. We'll make those plans a little later as we get in the season, but it will definitely the return trip will be the rough part.
Yeah. Well, Eric, as we wrap up, any final question or comments you have for Coach Vicars?
Yeah, my last question is to your team, the parents, and the fans. What would be your message this 2026 season?
I'm going to say this. We have a lot of really good kids that have put in a lot of work. We want everybody to be excited, but also to be patient and understand that everything's part of the plan that we're trying to build. And so everything goes to week 1. That first game, St. Albans.
Right.
Everything that we've done since January has been for building week 1. So, we want your support in the community and that kind of stuff. We want you to come to our games. We want you, and they've been very supportive. They've been great over the years. We have a really very supportive community, and I can't say enough about that for a lot of our sports. And so, just be patient with these guys and be excited. Be positive. I've been in athletics and football specifically for almost 30 years. And one thing that I can say is I like to be positive. I try to be positive with our kids, with our other coaches, with our community. And so it goes a long way. And so, and the last thing is have fun. Let's have fun.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you taking the time to sit down with Eric and I and let us pick your brain a little bit. And we're looking forward to that first game, August 28th. It'll be here before you know it. Once fall camp starts, you blink, and now you're ready to come out for Friday Night Lights to start the season,
we'll
right?
See you guys in 4 weeks.
4 weeks, and it'll go by so fast. Yeah. But Eric and I will be ready. And, Coach, we appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you so
Thank
much,
you
and good luck to
you
and the Tigers in the 2026 season.
Thank you guys so much.
Sure, appreciate it. You've been watching the 2026 Shady Football Preview Show here on Video Productions.